Will a sequel to the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre requel happen? Let's get into it.
What's your favorite scary movie? Amen.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Well, I'm Pennywise the dancing now.
We're gonna get you. Oh, not on the beat!
God, don't do that.
But sometimes death is better.
Hey everybody, what's up? KillJoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today we are talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 and if a sequel will happen in the future. Now before I get into this, I'm going to need y'all to like this video and subscribe if you're new here. I would greatly appreciate it. So will a sequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 actually happen? Like, do we have enough stuff going on in that last film to make a sequel? Well, there's this post-credits scene that sets up a sequel with Leatherface returning to his family home of the Sawyer household. Who could still be there? That's a big question we're going to get into in just a second here. Honestly, like, yeah, I could see it happening if they wanted to make another film. I know the response has been pretty polarizing to this film. Some people are like, they really like it, or some really hate it. And that's understandable on both sides, I feel. I think if you're looking for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that harkens back to that original film, you're not gonna find that in this movie. This is much more of just a straight up slasher film, and that's why a lot of people like it. It's a really gory and messed up slasher that honestly doesn't have a bad kill. There's not one kill in that last Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie where I was bored. Every single one is inspired, has some insanely gory and disturbing effect behind it. It's not all digital too, which is a big plus. A massive improvement over Texas Chainsaw 3D in my opinion. And honestly, if they wanted to make another movie in the same vein and explore like the lore of the Sawyer family, what Leatherface has been doing these past couple of years, I would be into that. Sure, I'd be down for some more of this. It would be fun. Why not? Speaking with The Hollywood Reporter, director David Blue Garcia says this: I've actually brainstormed quite a bit about what would happen in a continuation of this story, or just another tale in this world. I have some really cool ideas that I'd love to have the opportunity to pitch if Legendary wants to make another one. There's also things when I watch this movie that I look back on and wish I had done. So I've got those in my back pocket if I get to do another one. And of course, there's that teaser at the end of the film, so there's definitely a future to explore. So obviously, director David Blue Garcia is interested in making another film. The question is, what is that gonna be about? We have the majority of our characters dead at the end of this new film, with literally just Elsie Fisher's character surviving. So what happens next? Do we bring back the same character? Do we expand on that? Do we expand on new characters? I'm gonna be honest, I didn't love a lot of the characters in this movie, and my favorite character, Melody, played by Sarah Yarkin, she bites the dust in the ending, which was something I was not too big a fan of. Her kill's awesome, getting decapitated by Leatherface with the chainsaw, that's sweet, but it's so unprecedented and comes out of nowhere, man. And it was so obvious. It was so obvious it was gonna happen. There was like this like awkward pause area where it was like, oh, everything's fine? What? I don't know about this. And Sarah Yarkin's character doesn't really even kill Leatherface. Just kind of boops him on the chin before the false resolution happens. So I don't know, man. That was so unearned in my opinion. I think they could have done that a lot better. They tried to have a shot that was parallel to the ending of the original Texas Chainsaw, which I understand, and it is filmed in a very similar way, and it's kind of cool. But it comes out of nowhere, and it has absolutely nothing following it. In the original film, you have this crazy tense chase sequence happen, and then Sally just barely gets away by the skin of her teeth as Leatherface is dancing in the street with his chainsaw. In this, it's totally different. It's your typical slasher movie ending where the slasher killer is dead, but then he comes back for one last jump scare. We all learned that from Scream. Now we see that again here in 2022 still, and it's just still not all that great. It's predictable, it's not very fun, it's nothing crazy. They could have done something more interesting, especially with how fast-paced this movie was. I would have liked to have seen something along those lines with the ending, and that's kind of the one place where I feel like this movie fails. But for the rest of it is pretty fun, though. I really enjoy it. So what could they do in this next film? Could they expand on some stuff from the original, opposed to just stuff from this last movie? Because like I said, the majority of the characters are dead, so what do we do next? Do we expand on this idea of Leatherface's perspective? Now, we have Leatherface surviving, and like, if we don't want to bring back Elsie Fisher for the new movie, because a lot of people were iffy about the characters, which is understandable. I feel like a lot of these characters were just thrown into this movie to be meat bags, to be cut in half with a chainsaw. And that's understandable, but there's a little too many characters like that. You could expand on Elsie Fisher's story a little bit, which would be fun. We learned something about her that she is a school shooter survivor, so we could expand on that throughout this new movie. I think that would be an interesting thing to see. They didn't really expand on it as much as I would have liked so that I could know more about her character. If they want to do that in this next film and maybe she wants revenge on Leatherface, okay, I'm down. I'm down for that. But I have a crazy idea that I want to share with all of you. What if we do a movie from Leatherface's perspective, right? I mean, go back and watch that original film. If you are watching that from Leatherface's perspective, it's terrifying. All these people break into his home and then he's kind of defending himself at one point. Like, it's almost like that whole scene where like all the characters come in and they're just breaking and entering, and then he's like slashing them in half. That's kind of like, from his perspective, super scary. Why don't we see a movie from Leatherface's perspective? Get it out of the slasher trope area that it is right now, and let's do a movie that's all from Leatherface's perspective with new teenage characters coming in and basically breaking and entering to his house, and you could get like a Don't Breathe style movie from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Since, you know, the studio is so against making another movie that's similar to the art house feel of the original, we got to do something else. And because Fede Alvarez and Rodo Sayegas, they were the producers of this new film and they also conceived the story, I could see them doing something along the lines of stuff they've done in the past, because there's a lot of moments in this film especially that was reminiscent of like the Evil Dead 2013, another film that they did together. I could see them going that route with this, like a Don't Breathe version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and honestly, I'd be down for it. You could bring back a lot of really interesting stuff from that original that was so scary and do it in a modern telling. So obviously the hitchhiker character Nubbins from the original is dead, but Drayton was still alive at the end of that original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. So could you bring his character back? And another really crazy stretch I want to throw out there, because this is another character who is alive at the end of this film, but is probably not still alive in 2022, is Grandpa Sawyer, who is 124 years old in that original movie. So how crazy and weird would it be to bring back some of the dark humor of the original film by having Grandpa Sawyer still alive somehow? Some really like fucked up, no explanation kind of thing like that. Like, yeah, sure, it might be delving into like supernatural stuff by doing that, but wouldn't that be interesting to see something like that happen, where it's like maybe this character has been alive for so long because he's been eating like people, like maybe explore the cannibalism side of these characters a little more and actually bring them back, you know? You could have Drayton still alive. He was the oldest brother, if I'm remembering correctly from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but he could still be alive, theoretically. If Leatherface is still alive, why couldn't he be? The only one that technically dies of the Sawyer family is Nubbins, so he gets hit by the truck at the end of the original Texas Chainsaw. So could we see Drayton come back in this movie? That would be a cool character to bring back, have an old man Drayton cannibal character. I would just love to see how depraved that character has gotten over the years too. And we could explain how Leatherface left the Sawyer household somehow in all this time and had been captured, or I don't even know if it was being captured or not. We could explain that. What happened to Leatherface in the past 50 some years or whatever? I would love to know. That would be fun for a sequel to this movie to explore. I think that would be interesting if they want to start going into some of the lore of like what was going on in the past. And another thing I want to bring up real quick before I end this video is Fede Alvarez was in a review, in an interview, I mean, with I believe the Bloody Disgusting podcast, like the Boo Crew podcast, and he's talking with them about, are the other movies canon to this new film? And he doesn't give a straight no. He says, well, maybe. I mean, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, because what was Leatherface doing in the past 50 years? But something a sequel to this requel could explore is, what was Leatherface doing in the past? Could it be events similar to the events of some of the other sequels and remakes, other requels in this franchise, which is crazy to think that there's 2 of those in this franchise now. Could we somehow be bringing all of those into this canon, where it's like every single movie is canon to this one? You could kind of do that. I mean, you'd have to retcon some stuff, rework some stuff, but theoretically you could do that, and that would be really interesting to see a sequel deal with that. We already saw the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre deal with very similar tropes that Halloween 2018 dealt with, but in a much different way. For example, the character of Sally Hardesty is brought back as sort of a legacy character, but she ends up kind of not being super important to the plot and dies. The most interesting thing about her character to me, though, was the fact that she got murdered. Like, I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting them to try to set up a series similar to Halloween 2018, where it follows Sally Hardesty's struggle with dealing with the trauma of her past and trying to stop Leatherface. But no, they didn't go that route at all. They're taking a completely different route, which, once again, if they want to do a sequel, I think they should take a different route. And instead of doing what the Halloween franchise is doing right now, which is just ignoring all of the sequels and just being canon to just the original 1978 film, what if this movie does the opposite once again and tries to make all of those movies fit into this canon? We could talk about Leatherface's past and use the events from like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, 3, Next Generation. We could use all the events from those films canon to this original. To this sequel, I mean. I think that would be really interesting. That would be a really interesting challenge as a writer to do. And where this movie kind of fails, I could see them doing it better in a sequel too. There's potential here. Some people will disagree, and that's fine. I see potential in this film though to be really good. And I feel like maybe in a sequel they could fix a lot of the problems that this one had. I definitely see a sequel. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but with how the response to this film, it hasn't been all positive, it hasn't been all negative, but there has been a big response to it. People did really like it for the ones that did. And I think it's a fun movie. My buddy Sean, who runs Zomleader Studios, has messaged me and said it's his second favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, which I was like, no way, dude, that's awesome. Like, I'm glad he liked it so much. I ranked it about number 5 in my ranking. It's good. I ranked it about middle of the road because it's a good movie, but it's nothing special compared to some of the other ones in this franchise, for me at least. But I would love to see a sequel nonetheless. I'm not saying there's not potential in this film, because there clearly was. There clearly was something there, and it's like if you refined it a little bit, you might have had a great movie. But there was just a few weird parts and weird character stuff that I feel like you could fix in a sequel. So I want a sequel. But will Lionsgate, Netflix, will they do that? That's a big question as of right now. Hopefully we get that movie, because I would be so down for it. I think it would be a lot of fun. But what do you guys think? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Do you want a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, like another one, a sequel to continue this story? Or do you want something fresh? Do you want a brand new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie? Do we make another remake? Big question there. Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this new Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 video. I guess this is a video about the sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. There you go. Thank you so much for watching it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you're new here. Once again, I would greatly appreciate it, and it really helps this page grow so I can keep talking about horror movies all the time. If you can, support me on Patreon. The link for that will be in the description below. Also, I'm about to launch a Kickstarter for my movie Red Right Hand. It's a Scream fan film, and we could greatly use your support over there. I will be launching that Friday, and then I'll make some big post about it on the page. So make sure to look out for that. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.